The Roman sun scorched the hillside vineyard outside Pompeii as Marcus Aurelius Varro bent to examine his dying grapevines. Purple leaves curled inward like arthritic fingers, the stems blackened where they touched the soil. 3 seasons of cultivation, destroyed. His calloused hands traced the withered roots until they met something else. Pale, fibrous tendrils spreading from the walnut sapling his son had planted for shade. The stench hit him first, sharp, acrid, like rotting leather soaked in vinegar. Where walnut roots penetrated the earth, the soil itself had changed colour, from rich brown to an ashen grey. Nothing grew within 2 cubits of the tree's base. Not weeds, not grass, not even the stubborn thistle that plagued every other corner of his land. The earth rejected life itself. Varro's neighbouring farmers whispered of similar blights. Pliny the Elder would later document this phenomenon in his Natural History, noting how walnut trees poisoned the ground beneath them. The Romans called it juglandis venenum, the walnut's poison. What they couldn't know was the chemical warfare occurring beneath their feet. Juglone, a toxin secreted by walnut roots, dissolving cell walls and suffocating rival plants. The same bitter earth that plagued Roman vineyards now stretched beneath a medieval cottage garden, where Marjorie knelt, pressing cabbage seedlings into furrows she'd carved at dawn. Her calloused fingers worked quickly. These vegetables would mean survival through winter's lean months. The massive walnut loomed overhead, its branches casting shadows across her bent form. Within days, the tender leaves began curling inward, their edges browning like parchment held too close to flame. She dug frantically around one failing plant, exposing roots that had turned black and soft as rotted leather. The stench rose sharp and chemical. Her husband found her weeping over the withered stems, dirt caked beneath her fingernails. The walnut's poison, juglone, seeped from every part of the tree, leaves, bark, and especially the roots that stretched twice as far as its canopy. Medieval gardeners couldn't name the toxin, but they knew its work. Nothing thrived within the tree's domain except grass and certain hardy weeds. Marjorie's family would face hunger that winter. The same blight that withered the medieval woman's cabbages caught the eye of Lord Wilhelm, whose estate bordered 3 smaller holdings. He stood at his property line, watching wild blackberry vines shrivel where they touched the walnut's domain. The thorny stems collapsed inward, their leaves curling like burnt parchment before crumbling into grey dust that the wind scattered across the barren ground. Wilhelm ordered his groundskeepers to dig up walnut seedlings from the forest, their hands wrapped in leather to avoid the sticky husks that stained skin brown. They planted them every 10 paces along his borders, a living fence that required no maintenance. Within 2 seasons, the neighbours' wheat stalks yellowed at their edges, retreating from the invisible poison seeping through the soil. The walnut's weapon was juglone, a chemical that leaked from every root hair, every rotting leaf. It dissolved in rainwater, spreading through the earth like ink through cloth. Wilhelm watched his boundaries expand without lifting a sword, his neighbours abandoning the poisoned strips of land, leaving him with a kingdom ringed by death. While the ambitious landowner watched his walnut barriers strangle wild growth along his borders, a cart track away, Thomas Aldrich led his bay mare toward fresh pasture. October winds had scattered black walnut leaves across the meadow like dark coins. The horse lowered her head, nostrils flaring at the sweet grass beneath the debris. Within an hour, foam bubbled between the mare's teeth. Her legs buckled. Thomas gripped the leather halter as violent tremors seized her flanks. The walnut's juglone, concentrated in those fallen leaves, attacked her blood vessels, constricting airways, paralyzing muscle tissue. Each laboured breath whistled through her swollen throat. By nightfall, 3 more horses lay rigid in neighbouring stalls, their owners discovering too late what experienced horsemen already knew. 20 pounds of walnut shavings could kill a 1,000-pound animal. The toxin infiltrated hooves first, causing laminitis, a rotting of the sensitive tissues that left horses permanently lame if they survived at all. The same bitter essence that withered crops and sickened horses now bubbled in the healer's iron pot, its steam carrying the sharp stench of juglone through her cramped cottage. Martha ground the green walnut husks with mortar and pestle, releasing dark juice that stained her fingers black. The merchant's son writhed on her straw mattress, his bowels locked tight for 3 days, skin stretched taut over a swollen belly. She poured the murky decoction into a wooden cup, its surface filmed with oil. The boy's cracked lips parted reluctantly as she tilted the liquid down his throat. Within moments his stomach convulsed. Violent spasms racked his frame, bile erupting from his mouth as his skin flushed grey. His pulse hammered erratically beneath Martha's trembling fingers, while his eyes rolled white, breath coming in shallow gasps. The purge she sought became a battle for survival. His body expelled everything, blood mixed with waste, muscles seizing uncontrollably. Martha pressed cold cloths to his fevered forehead, watching helplessly as the walnut's poison ravaged him from within. The dose that should have cleansed threatened to kill. By dawn, he barely clung to consciousness, his heartbeat faint as winter rain against shuttered windows. Baron Wilhelm of Rothenburg crushed another walnut husk between his gloved fingers, the brown-black juice staining the leather as he studied his neighbour's thriving apple orchard through the morning mist. The groundskeeper waited, spade in hand, watching his master's jaw tighten at the sight of those perfect crimson fruits hanging heavy on the branches just beyond their shared boundary. Under a moonless sky, the groundskeeper scattered the crushed husks into shallow trenches, the acrid smell of juglone rising from the disturbed earth as he worked his way along the property line. Each shovelful of soil sealed the poison deeper, the walnut's chemical warfare beginning its silent infiltration through root systems that stretched beneath the unsuspecting orchard. By harvest time, Lord Heinrich's prized Rhinette apples hung shriveled on dying branches, their skin pocked with black spots while leaves curled inward like arthritic fingers. The Baron watched from his window as his rival inspected the withering trees, pulling at brittle twigs that snapped like old bones, never suspecting the calculated sabotage buried beneath his feet. The Baron's groundskeeper had whispered of the walnut's terrible power, and Brother Aldrich listened intently from behind his monastery's stone walls. Inside his vaulted laboratory, copper vessels bubbled over charcoal fires as he crushed fresh walnut husks with a marble pestle, their bitter stench filling his nostrils. The green-black juice stained his fingernails permanently dark. He heated the pulp in his glass retort, watching vapours snake through the curved neck. Hours passed. The condensate dripped slowly, 1 drop, 2 drops, each landing with a soft plink in the collection flask. What emerged was neither water nor oil, but something darker, thicker, clinging to the glass like molten tar, the essence of death itself. Brother Aldrich's hand trembled as he decanted the substance into a slender vial, sealing it with beeswax. 3 drops could wither a rose, 5 might fell a dog, but for a man... He scratched calculations onto parchment, cross-referencing Arabic texts on poisons. The vial caught candlelight, revealing swirls of amber within the darkness, beautiful and lethal. The alchemist's glass vial found its way across kingdoms, traded through shadowed hands, until it reached the grand hall of Château de Fontainebleau. Lord Bertrand de Montmorency lifted his goblet, the wine within catching candlelight like liquid rubies, his throat constricted. The cup slipped from his fingers, shattering against marble as his body seized, limbs jerking in violent spasms. Courtiers recoiled as foam bubbled between his lips. The royal physician pressed fingers to the lord's neck, feeling the pulse flutter like a dying moth. That acrid scent, bitter almonds mixed with rotting leaves, hung in the air where the wine had splashed. The physician's nostrils flared. He'd smelled this before in his studies of toxic plants. Servants whispered of the lord's recent land dispute with the Duke of Orleans. The physician extracted droplets from the shattered goblet's remains, noting the faint oil slick atop the wine. Black walnut essence. Concentrated, lethal. The court's laughter died. Eyes darted between nobles, searching for guilt in every twitch, every averted gaze. Trust dissolved like poison in wine. The same acrid scent that haunted the royal banquet hall now clung to the morning fog settling over Thornwick village. Cattle lay stiff in their pens, their mouths crusted with foam, while cornstalks blackened at the roots. The miller's wife discovered her chickens sprawled beneath the walnut grove, their feathers matted with dew and death. Old Martha, the village crone, whispered of a witch's curse spreading through the earth itself. She pointed her gnarled finger at the twisted walnut trees, their bark scarred with strange symbols. Fear rippled through the cottages faster than plague. By nightfall, torches blazed in trembling hands as villagers gathered, their faces twisted with terror and rage. They struck the trees with iron tools, leaving charcoal crosses burned deep into the bark. Children threw salt at the roots while their mothers chanted prayers. The blacksmith's son swore he saw the branches writhe like serpents in the firelight. Not one villager understood that juglone, the walnut's natural toxin, had poisoned their wells through the groundwater. The whispers that swept through the Duke's stone halls spoke of cursed earth and poisoned wells, of livestock frothing at the mouth and children with yellowed skin. Duke Wilhelm of Thuringia, his jaw clenched beneath a greying beard, summoned his bailiffs as autumn frost silvered the castle grounds. The edict he dictated bore his seal in blood-red wax. Every walnut tree within his domain must fall before winter's end. Woodsmen descended upon the ancient groves with iron axes, their blades biting deep into bark that bled dark sap. Villagers watched from doorways as centuries-old giants crashed through undergrowth, their massive trunks splitting with sounds like breaking bones. The Duke's soldiers supervised each felling, marking stumps with lime to prevent regrowth, while peasants scrambled to salvage the valuable heartwood before flames could claim it. Yet even as smoke from burning leaves darkened the November sky, farmers still refused to plant where walnut roots had spread. The soil remained barren for 7 springs, as if the tree's malevolent essence had seeped too deep for any axe to reach. Children born that winter carried names like Gottfried and Benedict, blessed names their mothers hoped to ward off whatever darkness the walnuts had left behind.